Hi, my name is Gabriella and welcome to the Merryweather Knitting Podcast. Today I'm very excited to chat with you from my home in Germany about all that I've been knitting and crafting and making this week. I hope that you'll get cozy and join me, maybe with something to knit for yourself as well. We can spend this beautiful December day together. I have a surprise finished object this week, and that is this little tiny beautiful Christmas ornament that I knitted from the Bluebirds of Happiness pattern on Ravelry. I think it's a free pattern. I've had it in my Ravelry library for years, so I think it is a free pattern though, and it's very, very beautiful, very sweet and precious and small. And I was inspired to knit this little Christmas ornament by Zsófia of the Berke Creations Knitting Podcast. She has such a beautiful podcast. She lives in Transylvania. In her most recent episode, she was blending tea, and I just am always inspired by her work and her life and the stories she tells. So I'd really recommend watching her podcast if you haven't checked it out. She was hosting a little knit along, a mini Christmas ornament make along, and I decided to jump on that. I think she was doing more, like quite a few ornaments in the pre-Christmas time, but I was just inspired by it and decided that I'd knit a little ornament. I'd love to knit a couple more before Christmas comes, because I just feel like now that I have this one, it was such a quick knit. Definitely in under an hour I finished this, but it could be, I think this, as soon as you get the hang of the pattern, this could be a little half-hour project. I can imagine knitting a couple more and just attaching them to gifts. I think that's a very sweet idea. And I feel like this is a very good compromise for somebody like me who's not the most keen on, gifting knitted objects, unless someone has proven themselves very knit-worthy. And I just think this is a little good compromise because it's an ornament, it's quick, it has, that handmade feel, but it's not like a huge commitment, It's not like I'm knitting somebody a sweater or even a pair of socks or anything like that. So I'm really, really happy with the way it turned out, and I'm very excited about it. I think I'm going to give it to my sister-in-law and just put it on her little Christmas gift as a nice little touch. Yeah, there it is. I knit it out of some leftover fingering weight yarn I had. I think it was a silk cashmere blend, silk cashmere wool. I had knit a shawl a few years ago out of this yarn, and it has a beautiful, lovely luster to it. And actually, it kind of was a mistake to mix it with the mohair, because I knit it double, as you can tell, with, I'm hoping you can tell, with the leftover silver Filcula Natilia mohair lace yarn that I had for my mittens that I knit a couple of weeks ago. And it has a very sweet halo. It's very, I think it's very cute. But the fingering weight yarn that I knit this with, this blue one, has actually such a stunning, it's so lustrous and so shiny and glorious. And I feel like it kind of is lost under the mohair. I feel like the mohair kind of elevates very basic woolly yarns, and I don't know, this yarn just didn't need to be elevated. It was beautiful, and it kind of like toned down a bit, which is a bit of a shame, but it's beautiful. I'm very happy with it, and I think it's a very good, it's a Christmassy color in a way. Some people have blue. I'm definitely more of a green, red, gold, maybe also even like silver mixed with the gold kind of Christmas person. I love colorful lights. I love colors. I love like even a little kitsch. I think kitschiness is very fitting in the Christmas season, and I actually love kitschiness all year round for every holiday and for every day of life. So Christmas is just another time to let that out. But I do think that blue and silver and white Christmas decorations look very nice. And I feel like my sister-in-law is somebody who gravitates more towards those kind of silver and blue Christmas colors. I could be wrong, but that's kind of what I think. So it will go on her Christmas gift. The eye is kind of, you can see the wool through the eye. I just stuffed it with some plain, undyed, very basic wool roving that I had in my stash as well. It was actually the last little bit that I had, so if I'm going to be making any other little toys or stuffed animals, I'm going to have to get some more, which is very exciting, because I have this recent website I found, which is a farm in the Netherlands, I think, so not that far from me, and they have just raw wool from their sheep, which they sell, and also they have some carded wool and things like that, but they have wool that you can just buy, and I'm really wanting to make an order, and some for spinning, and I think they had just like they had a bag which they called like stuffed animal wool or something, like for stuffing toys or stuffed animals, and they had just like a little 500-gram bag, and I thought of getting it and making some little stuffed animals soon. I'm not so sure, but now that I don't have any more, the time has come maybe soon to do that, which should be very exciting. So that's my little finished object, my Christmas bird, my Christmas bluebird. I'm very happy with it. I also finished the mittens that I was working on last time, these green mittens. I finished one mitten, not both. But I couldn't find it as I was prepping myself for this episode, so you're just gonna have to trust me. I hope that next time I have the second one to show you, but I'm kind of doubting it because honestly, working on that one is just, this week I just had them in there for myself, and every couple of, every once in a while when I had like 5 minutes, I'd sit down and knit a couple rows, or during breakfast when I had finished eating, my husband takes a little long, we were just sitting and chatting, I would spend, 15 minutes knitting on it here and there, and then I finished them, and just with those kind of stolen moments of time. And that was a very good technique for myself, just to get it over with and get it finished, because at this point I'm a little tired of knitting those mittens. But, hopefully that technique will work again this next week, or at least the next few weeks as I knit the second one, because I don't want to have one mitten and not the other. That's like one of the most painful things, when you have one sock or one mitten finished, but not the other one. So I've got to get on that. The next thing I have to show you is my Spearheads pullover by Jared Flood. Last week I had just knit a bit of the body. I think I had finished the ribbing, and I had a couple of centimeters of the body. Now I finished the body, and I'm joining for the yoke. I finished the body, the short rows for the back shaping, and now I'm on to the joining for the yoke, and I'm kind of tangled up here, so I'm a little nervous about kind of trying to lift it up to show you, but I'm going to try. I'm going to be very brave. I've got some like dangerous loose ends here that I'm, at risk of losing my stitches, but here it is. I'm joining in the yoke as we speak, as we talk. I'm in the process of joining, and it is looking great. I'm happy with it. You can't really see it, but here's the arm number 1 attached, a little loose. It's really like fiddly right now because this is the first row, but I've taken the little sleeves, underarm stitches are all on waist thread, and yeah, there we go. It's joining in the yoke. I'm so happy about this too. I feel like, it's been miles and miles and miles of stockinette, which is fun and lovely, but I started this immediately after finishing my, this balloon jacket, and honestly, this balloon jacket was such a dream. It was like exactly what I needed as I knit it, and this was also a lot of fun, but this was pure garter stitch, and now this is pure stockinette. I feel like I'm going a little crazy with that, I don't currently have any other projects that I'm working on which have more complicated texture or color work, so I am just absolutely in need of the color work on this yoke. I'm really excited about it. It's such a simple color work pattern too. It's really very basic, but I'm so excited for that variety and that kind of, interest. I feel like I've been missing it for so long, and so I'm really excited about doing this. And I think that the next sweater that I knit, it has to be something with a little bit more interest and texture. It's just time for something like that again, because I've knit stockinette and knit stitch, garter stitch to my heart's content. So I'm ready for something a little bit more engaging, maybe also a little bit more challenging, but I've enjoyed this sweater very much, and I'm so excited to have the yoke finished, hoping that I do that pretty quickly, and then I can give it to my husband to wear in January and be all warm and cozy in this lovely Alafos Lopi yarn sweater. Oh, it's so lovely. It's so nice when you can put your arm in the sweater, in the sleeve, and kind of, you really see it taking shape for real. As you see the body, you can imagine it. I also feel like when you see the sleeves, you can kind of like, oh, that's how it's gonna look on, you know, my arm, or, you know, as you try it on as it goes. But when you see it all joined up like this, you really can't deny that this is going to be a sweater. I feel like along the way when I knit, I often show my husband Nick and I'm like, look, you know, that's gonna be the body, that's the arm, and he kind of looks at it and is like, okay, I can kind of tell. I remember I was once showing him, I had a whole body finished of a cabled sweater, and I was trying to show him how it would look after a while, and he was like, I can't tell. He didn't understand that it would be a sweater. Like, he's like, it looks like a vest. And I'm like, it is a vest, but you have to imagine that there are arms that are going to be attached, like sleeves are going to be attached. Yeah, it was very funny, but now you can't deny it. Now you can tell that it's going to be a pullover very, very soon. So I'm very happy with the way this is going to. And it's just, I mean, with this bulky, heavyweight yarn, it knits up so quickly. It's just really fun and so satisfying to knit. I also think, you know, it's kind of, I actually kind of want a very cozy pullover knit out of this exact same yarn now, because I like the weight of it. I like how heavy it is, and I can imagine when it's really cold out and it's a little snowy, you can just pull this on and take a walk. Here in Germany, it does not get that cold. I mean, we're lucky if we get snow at all, and so I'm pretty sure that I could wear this kind of weight sweater throughout the whole winter without a coat. So I don't know, I feel like I want one for myself too, but on the other hand, I could just use his. I probably will just end up wearing his sometimes. We'll see. But I also think it's a very masculine yarn, and a very masculine texture and weight as well, just because of how rugged it is and how rustic it is, but also how heavy it is. Like, it's very fitting for a sweater for a kind of masculine style, you know, whether that's for a man or a woman, a kind of rugged, nice, hard-wearing sweater. It's the perfect yarn for that. So I'm very, very pleased with it. And I'm hoping to knit more with Lopi yarn soon, because it's so much fun. Everything about it I just adore. It's so much, like, it's really my thing. I love it. And I do love delicate yarns. I do love soft, beautiful, luxurious yarns, but there's just something new that I'm discovering in this rustic yarn feel, and just the way it knits up, the way the stitches look. There's just something so organic and so beautiful about it. And I just love that connection to the whole process. I feel like it just brings you one step closer to, you know, the origins of where the material comes from when it's rustic. It's one reason why I love to spin, because I feel like you're connecting to the process. You're getting this wool from a sheep and spinning it, and you're just connected to the whole process, from earth to wearing it to, you know, wearing it out. I just don't know why, but I find that a very, very enriching experience to have that. When I wear a garment and I have that connection to it, it just enriches my experience. Every day when I put something on that I hand knit, I don't know, it makes me happy. It's one of those things that just makes me really happy. Tell me how you feel about it, if you understand what I'm saying. I feel like a lot of knitters and crafters get that. If you make something yourself, it's just such a good, satisfying feeling to wear it. So that's all I have to show you right now as far as knitting goes. It's been a week of, you know, that sweater. I feel like I made a good dent in it. That's a pretty big chunk. So I feel like satisfied with my progress, but I'm already finished talking about that. So I'm now going to talk a little bit about the other crafting adventures I've had this week. I hope you'll stick around for that too. Last time I told you that I had these play silks that I bought. So these big silk squares, 2 of which were 55 centimeters by 55 centimeters. And one of them was, I think, 75 or 80 centimeters by 75 or 80. They're just squares. And the last one was like 95 by 95. Not quite a meter. Or maybe 90, I'm not sure. But I wanted to dye them. I wanted to experiment with natural dyes and with just dyeing myself to give to my daughter to play with. So these silks, you know, they're just to play with for her as little toys, for sensory play, because silk is such a beautiful, natural, nourishing kind of texture and sensual experience experience to touch and play with, and also just for as she gets older, if she wants to play dress up with them, if she wants to use them to just create little scenes, or if she wants to play peekaboo with them. Now that's her new thing. She loves to cover her face and then show her face and play peekaboo, which is very sweet. So yeah, they're just kind of an open-ended toy with which she can be completely creative as she grows, and as she develops, she'll probably find new ways to use them. So I decided to try out some natural dyes this week, and I had so much more fun than I expected. I thought, about this natural dyeing thing or just dyeing these silks, I thought of it more as like a kind of economical thing to do. I was like, yeah, these play silks that you buy that are finished can be pretty expensive. And I found these silk squares at a kind of online at this kind of wholesale warehouse crafting website. And so I just thought, I'll dye them myself. It's much more affordable to do that, and yeah, I'll just try it out. Let's see how it is. Well, I think it's very important to sometimes step out of your comfort zone as far as crafting goes and try things out, because you never know what you're gonna love and what's your new passion gonna be. I'm not saying that this is my new passion or anything, but it was so much fun to try it out, to try natural dyeing, and just to try dyeing at all. And I did it in the most simple, primitive way possible. I didn't have any special materials. I didn't have a mordant. When you dye with natural plant materials, or I think natural materials at all, most of the time you use or would need a mordant to make the color, stick to the fiber, to make it appear on the fiber, to make it color fast so it doesn't come out so easily in the wash. Some natural materials you don't need a mordant for, which, you'll see I didn't use a mordant at all, just because it's a little bit more, it's another step in the process, and there are certain things to keep in mind. It can be something which you just need to be more careful with to do it in a healthy way. So I just left it out and I just tried without, but I'm so happy with the results that I got. So I'm going to show you the first one I dyed. I started by dyeing with avocado pits, so like the seeds and the skin. And I've seen so many varying results of people dyeing with avocado. And some of them are extremely pink, there are peachy colors, there are brownish colors, there's a huge range of colors. And the thing about natural dyeing, which I think is so special, is that you can get a different shade every time you do it because of the organic material you're using. They all have different properties in them. Your water can have an influence on the color. You can add something to make it a base or an acid, and that will change the color often. So it's often that you could maybe never get the same color twice. And so I started with avocado pits and seeds, and my goal and my dream was a very pink color. I had seen people get stunning pinks, even without a mordant, on silk and even cotton and bamboo. So I was pretty confident that I could get it. I thought, yeah, I'll just try it out. We'll see. Even if it's like peach, it's fine. And so what I did after doing some research is I had read that to get more pinkish tones and reddish tones, it was best to, or it is best to kind of go low and slow with the cooking of the avocado pits and seeds. It's not really cooking, you don't really bring it to a boil, but you kind of cook it on a very low temperature, simmer for a long time. So I did that. I put the avocado seeds and skins all inside of a pot of water, and I let it cook on a very low heat for over 12 hours. I let it cook and cook and cook, and the color started to develop. It started out brownish, kind of yellow, and over time it developed into a very deep, rich red color. Truly red, deep red. Blood red, it was stunningly deeply red, and I thought, this is exactly what I want. I'm on the right track. It looks beautiful. I tested some out in a couple little glasses, and one I kept plain, and one I added some baking soda to make it more of a base, because I had also heard that adding some baking soda and making it a base can bring out even more of those red and pink tones. I don't know what would have happened if in the end I didn't do that, because I added, and I felt like it almost didn't change the color, but it made it a little bit more deep red. So I went ahead and added baking soda to the whole pot, and I now wonder if what it would have been like if I hadn't done that, if it would have turned out differently and maybe really been more pink, or if it wouldn't have changed it much. But so I think my water is I have hard water, I think, so you probably could tell me more about how that influences it if you have any experience with natural dyeing that I know, but the dye was extremely pigmented and very red. And so after over 12 hours, it was a very long time, overnight, I think almost 24 hours, I let it simmer. I don't know if that's too long, but I'm happy with the results, but it wasn't pink when I dyed it. It was still red, it was very deep red, and at that point, I drained out the seeds and the peels, and I just put in my silk. And this is how it turned out. Here it is. It has this very beautiful kind of irregularities. There's pieces where I let fold and did not move it. I put it in there on purpose, did not touch it, like didn't move it around at all intentionally, because I wanted any kind of variation that I could get in there. I thought it would make it a very cool kind of natural, make it have kind of a natural effect. And I'm very happy that I didn't do that, because I like these little spots, these darker spots, and you'll see just the variation in color. But as you can tell, this is not truly pink. It's not the pink that I had envisioned. I think this color is absolutely stunning, and I quite honestly would love to have like a dress or a top in this. I think it's super beautiful, but it's definitely not pink. You know, it's peach. It's like it is a little pink. I guess it's kind of like a salmony peachy color, and it's super stunning. I think it's super stunning, but it wasn't what I imagined. I think that, you know, lesson learned with natural dyeing, having expectations is probably not the best thing, you know, because you never know what you're going to get. And in the end, I think this is a stunning color, but just because I expected something else or had hoped for something else, I don't know, I wasn't the most thrilled, but it is an absolutely stunning color, and I really love it. And I'm amazed at how pigmented it is. So I did let it sit in that dye pot then for another over 12 hours, a very, very long time, before taking it out and rinsing it. But there it is, the avocado dyed silk. I had also read that dyeing or boiling up your avocado material a second time can bring out more pink, or I didn't read that, I actually just saw it in a video. It happened to an amazing, cool natural dyer who you can find on YouTube. Her username is BillyNou. If you're interested in natural dyeing at all, I would check out her channel because she has amazing resources for beginners. So yeah, BillyNou, I'll leave her as well in the description. But that was my avocado. And then after the avocado, I was like, okay, I want to try turmeric now. Turmeric is also a dye or a material that you don't necessarily need a mordant for. Avocado seeds have tannin in them, which help them bind to the fiber. So avocado seeds are also good to use, or one that you could use without a mordant, especially for a protein fiber like silk. But turmeric, also, I've seen people use it without a mordant and have pretty good success. I think it's just very pigmented. I don't know if it has tannin. I don't know if there's a chemical reason why it binds well, or if it's just the fact that it's so pigmented. I mean, I know that when I use turmeric, like raw turmeric, and cook with it, it definitely stains my hands for quite a while. So I imagine that it would also work well as a dye. And so I took some turmeric. I had about 3 little thumbs of raw turmeric in my freezer, which I took out, thawed, and then grated very small. Just grated them really finely. And then I had about, I don't know, a teaspoon or a tablespoon of powdered turmeric as well that I threw in the pot. And I let it cook and let it cook and let it cook for a long time until I had a very strong color. First, the color was pretty, it was like yellowish brown. I didn't know what to expect from it, so I was fine with it. I let it cook and cook until it seemed like pretty pigmented. And then I put the silk into the pot. And this is not how it turned out at the beginning. I'm sorry, I showed you, I gave it away, but this is the color it turned out, which honestly, we'll just take a moment. Is this not the most stunning color? Is this not the most stunning color in the world? I'm absolutely in love with the way that this one turned out. It's like gold. I don't even know if you can tell on camera, but it's like sunshine gold, beautiful, the most rich, like enchanting, beautiful yellow shade that I've ever seen in my entire life. I could not be more thrilled about the way it turned out. But when I first put the silk in and waited a couple of hours, it was not this color. It was pretty brownish, almost. And I was like, so disappointed. I was like, no, after the avocados, I don't want another brownish looking silk. So I did some research and found out that Turmeric is very pH sensitive. And it responds very well to adding an acid or a base, and adding an acid can bring out the yellows a lot. So I honestly, I straight up, I don't know if I tested some first or if I just poured in quite a bit of plain distilled vinegar, but that's what I did. I poured in plain distilled vinegar, I mixed it up, and the color changed instantly. I let it sit there for a few more hours, and this is then how it turned out after I rinsed it. I'm so thrilled about it. It's absolutely beautiful. I know it could fade over time, but because it's raw, it's just plain 100% silk, I'm not going to be washing these unless they get dirty, because they'll, I'll just hang them up, let them air out a little bit if they need to be aired out. But I'm so happy with this. And the other cool thing is that I can always just re-dye them. If they do fade, I'll just put this in another pot of turmeric dye and should be good. So I'm just absolutely thrilled with this color. Isn't it not so beautiful? Are you not? Do you see this? Oh, it's so stunning. I love it. I really love it. I think it's like a gold, just sunshine color. I love it. I had two more little tiny silk squares that I wanted to dye. And I had thought of doing kind of a tea bath for them, or for one of them at least. But I had no black tea, and I don't know, I just was a little bored of the idea of tea dyed silk. I just thought, come on, this turmeric was so beautiful, and I mean, look at these colors together. They're super beautiful and rich. I had thought of doing blueberries, which I'm pretty sure if you want to make blueberry dye stick to fabric, you definitely need a mordant. But I thought, I had a ton of blueberries that we got really cheap, and I thought maybe I'll use some blueberries to dye these, or dye one of them. But before I did that, I was baking Christmas cookies and opening up my Christmas little decorations box, and I saw all my food coloring, and all my food coloring was 2 years expired, and I was 2 years expired. Food coloring is one of those things that I feel like almost, maybe this is going to repulse you, but honestly for me, food coloring, maybe I'm ignorant, but I'm not really sure. I wouldn't necessarily think that it would be deathly dangerous to use, because I think it's just purely chemicals in there. Maybe they go bad, maybe it's poisonous, but regardless, usually that's something I wouldn't necessarily be freaked out about. Probably there's a lot about me if you saying that, but I did decide against using it for cookies, and decided then for using these food colorings for natural dyes. I thought, okay, I'll try making a purple out of the what I have left over of red and blue. I mixed them up. And unfortunately, I had a very small amount of red and a lot of blue. And so it turned out just very blue. And this little silk that I tried it with was it was an extremely garish blue. I don't know how to explain it. It was just very artificial. Obviously, it's artificial food coloring, but it was just ugly. I did not like the color. I just did not want it. I didn't like it at all. So I thought, okay, I need to figure out something else. It's now food coloring dyed. I had two other food coloring colors, which I had thought I'd use for the other silk maybe, but I just took them, and I took the square, folded it, and then put some green in a shape, folded it again, put all the yellow in a shape, and just emptied out the food coloring little tubes and let it sit there in water overnight. And the next day, I washed it out and dried it, and I got this lovely color, which I think is very sweet. This is not a naturally dyed silk, but I'm very happy with the way this turned out too. This food coloring dye looks very sweet, and I think it looks like a kind of a jungly greenish, bluish, yellowish color. These patterns showed up kind of nicely. You see it, I just think it reminds me of the jungle. It's not anymore this ugly, ugly blue. I like this green. It's green and blue and yellow. And yeah, I'm happy with the way this one turned out too. So those were my adventures in dyeing. I have one more little plain silk, and maybe I will go ahead and dye that one up with blueberries, maybe not. I might just let it sit for a while and think about it, but when I dye it, I want to show you again. So I hope you're not too bored by this little dyeing adventure, but I just think they look so sweet together. There they are, the play silks. I also had thought with this one here, maybe to try over dyeing it with a different, maybe batch of avocados or maybe something else, because Alexandra of the November Woods podcast has been over dyeing her naturally dyed wool, which if you're interested in natural dyeing, if you're interested in that kind of thing, watch her podcast. I feel like in general, watch her podcast. I learned so much from watching her. I always feel like I leave watching her podcast with so much inspiration as far as things I want to make or try out or experiment with, because she's really, she experiments really well with things like this. And she recently had some naturally dyed yarn that she had dyed up and over dyed. She had a batch of wool of yarn that she didn't like how it turned out, so she over dyed it with some madder, I think it was. And honestly, this color was like the most stunning color I've ever seen at all. Like, not only like naturally dyed, but like this like red crimson color was just so stunning. And I think like I was just so inspired by this idea of over dyeing something. So maybe I'll try that with this in the future. I don't know. It is a beautiful color, but I mean, her results with that yarn were just absolutely like breathtaking. So maybe I'll experiment with that too sometime. With this little silk. I don't know if I'm at the level of wanting to do too much, really get into natural dyeing, just because I have such a limited amount of space in my home and I'm a little nervous about mordanting. I don't know, but who knows what's gonna come. Maybe I will try it out once summer hits and once I can maybe go on the balcony and mordant or something like that. But yeah, we'll see. So those are my crafting, things to show you this week. Before I go, I also wanted to briefly mention a couple of podcasts that I've been really loving in this season. I was briefly mentioned by a couple of knitters in their podcasts, and I was so shocked and in awe and honored to hear my name mentioned. It was like amazing because I love watching these people, and I was just sitting enjoying my time with them as I was watching their podcast, and to hear my name, it was just very surreal and very lovely. So I thought I'd share the love a little bit and tell you about a couple of podcasts I've really enjoyed and maybe that you'd enjoy too. I always love when I find someone new to watch and spend time with in the space of podcasts and, the crafting community, especially now as we can't maybe spend all the time we usually would with other crafting friends if you have even that community, which I don't have that community. And so for me, it's like, it's like spending time with people who share my love, who I feel like in the end I get to know a little bit through watching their podcasts. So the first one I want to mention to you is a very amazing, lovely podcast, also a relatively new podcast, and that's Ray of the Sugar Plum Robin podcast. She is such a lovely person. It's so wonderful to watch her. She doesn't have that many episodes yet, but every episode that I've watched of her, it's just an absolute treat to sit with her. It feels like you're sitting with an old friend. She starts each episode out with a poem that she wrote and completes it, like ends the episode also with a poem, and she knits the most stunning color work ever. It's just beautiful. I'm always inspired to knit color work when I watch her podcast too. So if you haven't seen her yet, I would definitely recommend going and checking out her podcast. I'll write everything down below in the description. And the other podcast I wanted to mention is the Rose Opal Knits podcast with Erica and Daphne. They're a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law duo, they're so much fun to watch. I really, really enjoyed their podcast the past few weeks. They have more episodes and they really are like, they knit so much. I feel like every episode I watch, they have so much to show and so many beautiful things to talk about, and it's really fun to watch them together. It's really sweet the way they interact together and chat. I feel like watching a duo on a podcast is also something unusual and something really special. So I really enjoy them. I also think it's cool because you see their kind of different styles. I think their styles kind of also overlap in a lot of ways, but they definitely have their own individual styles. Daphne is younger and she also has 2 little kids, so I love to see what she knits for her kids. And I think Erica also has a young daughter, but I have a little girl who's 9 months old. I think Daphne has a 5-month-old or something. She's like a little baby, so it's really sweet to see what she makes for her. And I love watching their podcast too. It's so much fun. So if you haven't seen them, check them out as well. I'm going to leave their information below. I feel like I will wrap it up now. I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your week and weekend. I hope that your 4th Advent, if you celebrate, is really special and full of love and happiness and joy and peace, and that your Christmas celebration is just wonderful, even if it's a little bit different than it usually would be. We are going to be setting up our Christmas tree and Christmas decorations today. I don't know why, but it took us a long time to do it this year. Super weird. We've been totally in the Christmas spirit since November. Christmas music has been playing, we've had lights lit, but we haven't set up our Christmas tree, which is just kind of strange. So we're going to be doing it today, making a very fun ritual out of it. But anyway, I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your week. You can find me on Ravelry as gabriellak. I have not updated my Ravelry in a very long time. I really need to upload photos of the things I've made and update my project pages and things like that. But I'm really on Ravelry quite often and love looking to get inspiration. So I would love to see what you're working on there as well. I can also be found on Instagram as Merryweather Knitting. I love getting inspiration there too, so I'd love to see what you're working on there as well. I also love if you left me a little note. Let me know what you're doing this Christmas holiday. Are you able to celebrate it with family, or is it a little bit different for you this year? Also, thank you so much for subscribing. Those of you who have, if you want to subscribe, it would be lovely as well. I'd love to have you. It's very special to have this little knitting community together. And it means so much to me when I get to hear from you. I look forward to seeing you again next episode. Take care.